declining attorney. Good to have you here, Pablo. So, guys, Kevin Cooper is a good friend of mine. I've known him for a few years now. And let me tell you, every time I'm in a room with him, he's just full of energy. He's got so much knowledge. He runs his own group in the Sacramento area. He's just crushing it. And I needed him to get on this call to share all those nuggets with us. So, Kevin, bring some love, man. Share us how we can stay connected with our clients, how we can reconnect with our clients and really grow our business. Help us out, man.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, and I appreciate it being so well attended. Just congratulations to each and every one of you for just taking the time to grow. I was speaking with Roberto, and we were trying to figure out what sort of things might I be able to share with you that can help you with your business, right? And so what I want to do today is I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about mindset and techniques. And so sometimes you hear mindset and you just kind of turn off, oh, here we're going about mindset again, right? But nothing else matters if your mind's not right. Right. And so I want to talk about some things. I want to give some examples on things that you can do to go ahead and get your mind right. And then ultimately give you some techniques, specific things that you can do right now to go ahead and grow your business. So that's what I intend to do, if that's okay. Right. So first thing I want to talk about is the Easter egg hunt is over. Right. So let me just share with you what I mean about that. So you remember back in the day, if you have some kids, grandkids, whatever it may be, when they're little, where do you put the eggs at? Right in the middle in plain sight, right? And then when they get older, you got to start hiding them behind the bushes and up the tree and all that. Well, the real estate market that we're coming out of was that proverbial Easter egg hunt where the eggs were right out in the middle. Everybody was an excellent agent. Everybody put a sign in the yard and their house sold. Everybody was able to go out there and eventually get a buyer accepted. Well, our market has redacted. It's changed, right? We had the changes in the interest rates, right? And right now there's been an exodus of realtors. According to realtor.com, we've had over 60,000 agents leave our industry, right? So this is not to scare you. This is to say, as a guy who's been doing it for 21 years, I love it when the market tips a little bit because everybody shouldn't have a real estate license. Everyone shouldn't get the paychecks that we get, right? And there were so many people involved in this market that the pie just got sliced up thinner and thinner and thinner. Back in the last market collapse of 2008, my business went from doing 100 ends a year to doing over 250 ends a year. And the reason being is we changed our focus. We had a traditional model. Things weren't going as well as we want. I saw the market was changing. So I thought short sales, that's the thing to do. Who's the best guy in the country? There's a guy named Nolly Williams. He's with EXP now, as a matter of fact. Nolly's a great friend of mine now. I went out. I got his system. I learned how to do short sales. And then we took his system and improved it. And it got us, honestly, we made a lot of money in the down market. So for me, I'm more excited about markets like this than I am about a really good market, because you're going to get a chance to show your value proposition. You're going to get a chance to differentiate yourself between everybody else. So, fast forward, let's talk about a couple of things, So we have real estate practitioners and then we have real estate professionals. And the professionals are the ones that are going to show up right now. And those are the people that are going to win the listings, that are going to win the buyers, they're going to win the investors. And I'm going to share some things with you. So back to me real quick. I'm at a point in my life where I've done what I need to do. I've done okay. I can retire tomorrow. I can retire today. It's not a problem. And so what I found myself doing probably for the last 6 months was just kind of sleeping at work. I was still closing deals. I was still doing more business than most people would dream of doing, but it wasn't nearly what I was accustomed to doing. And there's a saying, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? And I thought, I'm just going to ride this out, the business is going to come to me. And it was, but it wasn't coming in the way that I wanted to come. And the seminal moment that happened was I went for a listing appointment against another agent here. And right before, 1 hour before I was supposed to go to the listing appointment, the person called up and said, hey, we're going in a different direction. We're going with the other agent, right? And I'm like, what? So I was ready to jump into my objection handling, but the other agent happened to be Luann Chicosco, who's an EXP agent and a very good friend of mine. And I said, hey, I had the integrity to say, she's a great agent, go with her. And I just hung up. But in my mind, I lost, right? Even though I never had an at-bat, even though I never got off the bench and up to the plate, in my mind, I had lost, right? And I changed right then and there. I changed my state. So what did I do? For whatever reason, it was time. I was tired of being chunky, thick, fluffy. So I went to the gym, right? So I thought, I spent money on cars. I spent money on watches, anything you can imagine. why not spend some money on my health? So I went out, I joined the gym. I got a personal trainer. I have a nutritionist. I joined some place called Stretch Lab where they go ahead and they stretch you for way too much money, right? But I'm all in. So for the last 5 weeks, I'm telling you this, I'm getting to a point. For the last 5 weeks, I put $7 million worth of real estate in escrow. I got deals popping for 1.4, 1.1, 900, 765, 600, another 900, 560, 479, 360, all in the last 5 weeks, right? So if those are sort of gains that you want, do it. I got pissed off, right? I got pissed off because I was tired of hearing people say the market sucks. I was tired of losing, even though I didn't lose, but in my mind I lost. And I had to have a mind shift. I had to change my state. I got pissed off. Now, each and every one of you, you have a monster in you, and you have to control your monster. And don't be afraid to bring your monster out from time to time. I brought my monster out. My monster is I will not lose. Anybody who knows me, I hate losing. Losing is the worst thing in the world to me. And so I'm out there busting my tail. Have you guys ever listened to David Goggins? Anyone know who David Goggins is? Raise your hand and acknowledge. All right. If you haven't, watch this dude. He's insane. He was a Army Ranger, a Navy SEAL, just some crazy, crazy stuff. This guy does not lose. He pushes his body, he pushes his minds to extremes we can never even imagine. So when I'm out there and I'm walking or I'm running and I'm tired and I get my cramp and my little head starts going, I was like, what would David Goggins do? You know what David Goggins says? He goes, get tough, MF, right? So that's what you have to do. You have to reach down into yourself and find out what's going to change your state so you can start doing things. Screw what anybody else thinks. Just take massive action. When you start taking massive action, you're going to have changes. So the next thing about the changes is, I don't know if you've ever heard of future pacing. Future pacing is just imagining what it's going to look like when you're there. So if you think you're wealthy and start acting like you're wealthy, you're going to become wealthy. If you think that you're an expert in your business, you're going to become an expert in the business, right? That confidence shows up every time you meet somebody, right? Generally speaking, when you meet somebody, you have, statistically 4 to 5 seconds, they're going to make an impression on you. And you have to be able to take control of the situation, make an impression, make them like you, and do all that in about 3 or 4 seconds. We're going to give you some techniques to do that a little bit later, but you really have to see who you are. So I see myself, even though I'm still a little fluffy right now, I see myself as muscular. I see myself as thin. I see myself as fit, right? And so I even though I am kind of fluffy, right? Even though I still not right where I am, I identify as being muscular. So I guess I'm kind of trans slender. I'm a little chunky, but I identify as being slim. So I'm trans slender. You can put that on the record. All right. So gotta think about that one. So the other thing you can do is, so what are you going to do? You have to improve your skill set, right? So the one thing you can do is your education. And I strongly encourage you to do that. Read books. I've read one book a week, every single week for the first year I was in the business. And I did that for the first 2 years. So that's right out the gate. That's 104 books, right? You will never look bad reading a book. And for some of you say, well, I don't really like reading. They have this thing called Audible, right? So while you're out exercising and doing your thing, I listen to audibles all the time. I just listen to, right now I'm listening to Gordon Belfort. Anyone know who Gordon Belfort is? Raise your hand. The Wolf of Wall Street, right? He did some great things. He did some bad things, but he was an amazing salesperson. So you can get your information from wherever you go, right? The other thing that goes with your education is your health. Make no mistake about it. You see this energy I have? I always have energy anyhow, but I'm off the chain. I'm like I'm drinking 4 or 5 cups of coffee, and I don't drink coffee. My staff will not let me drink coffee because I'm really out of control. Simeon can attest to that, right? So at the end of the day, coffee is all bad for me, but this energy is coming from just working out, right? From getting up, Roberto, we were talking about this, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, jumping out of bed, just being happy to go to the gym, getting out in the cold air, and just doing things what other people won't do, so I can have other things. So I can have things that other people won't. So if you'll do what other people won't do, you'll be able to have what they want, right? So this is something I really, really want you to do. And the other thing besides your education, your health, is your mental health, right? Your peace of mind. I just got to say, so many of you have so much on your plates, right? Maybe you're worried about your finances. Maybe you're worried about your relationship. I know a lot of you are worried about your business. And when you add this up, the aggregate total is it's really tough for you to function. And I really think you should think about this hard is your mental health. You need to find your happy place, right? So my happy place right now is the gym. But anytime you put me on a motorcycle or put me in a fast car, that's truly my happy place. That's where I love being anytime above anything. What's your happy place? What's your hobby? And I really want you to think about this. What do you do that's selfish and just for you? Think about it. What do you do that's just selfish and for you? And I say that word selfish because it's a hard word, right? But I'm saying if you didn't have to think about anybody else, not your kids, not your spouse, not your significant other, if you want to do something, what would you do? What's your hobby? Is it golf? Right? Do something that you truly enjoy. You have to. If you don't do it, you're not worth anything. And I mean it. Like when I go and I ride my motorcycle, I love to ride my motorcycle to a top of a mountain where there's no cell reception. Whereas if something happens to me, the only way I'm going to get out is if a helicopter comes and flies me out, if they can find me. And that's what I consider to be fun. Or going to a racetrack and going around a track at 150 miles an hour. That's what's relaxing to me. And after I do that, though, when I come home, I'm a much better person for everybody. And so you have to ask you, what do you do for yourself, right? That's the most important thing. And so, kind of in the hierarchy of just this is my order of things. It's God, my family, my health, and then my business, right? God, my family, my health, and then my business. Our business is important, but if those other three pillars are not strong, your business is going to fold. So that being said, let's talk about some things that you can do in your business. So in your business, and we're talking about communication, and you guys might challenge some of these numbers, but communication, 45% of how you communicate is based off of your tonal qualities, your tone, your voice, right? Another 45% of the message you're sending out is your body language. And then finally, only 10% are the words that you're speaking. So I'll tell you that again. 45% is the tone of your voice. 45% is your body language, and only 10% is your voice, the words you say. Okay? So let's talk about this for a second. If someone comes, and like sometimes you have a client, this is one thing I've shared with my team before. Has anyone ever had a client, raise your hand, a client that just seems really, really angry at you or just at the world? Has anyone ever had someone like that? Raise your hand, participate, let me know you're there, right? So you've had it, right? And what I've seen sometimes is you have to check yourself, because I've had people that are super nice people, but when they go in the transaction, they're a real jackass, right? And so you have to be able to identify that what that is in that instance. Many times, they're not really mad at you. They're not really mad at whatever the circumstances are. It's fear, and it's manifesting itself as anger. I'll say that again. It's fear manifesting itself as anger. So that person is going to go ahead and they're chewing on you and they're biting on you and they're doing that. And God, Bob's normally a really good guy. Why is he acting this way? And it's because Bob is scared and maybe he's not articulating that. So you have to be able to discern that and step back and meet him and diffuse the situation, right? So let me share some other techniques. So your voice, in my opinion, if you've ever heard of a Stradivarius violin, a Stradivarius violin is like the most beautiful sounding instrument in the world. And a violin can go from the highest of the highs to the lowest of the lows. And make no mistake about it, that violin is your voice. And how you choose to use your voice is going to determine your success in this business. There's a lot of things that go with that. So for example, if I want to make a point to something, all I have to do is pause. A pause is probably the most powerful technique you can use, and it's underutilized. If you really want to double down, after that pause, lower your voice a little bit. If you lower your voice, if you practically whisper, that makes whatever you're saying immensely important. For example, if you've ever been at a listing appointment and maybe there's two people involved, maybe a husband and wife, So the wife's at the table, conducting business. The husband's over there in his armchair, and he just, in the peanut gallery, hollering things out. And he doesn't really want to be part of it. If you want to get the husband to run to that table, just lean over and whisper to the wife. And he's going to, what's going on? What's going on? That dude's going to get up and run and sit at the table and join your conversation. So as you're going through and you're using these techniques, and there's a lot of things. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of NLP, neuro linguistic programming. If you haven't, it's a commitment. But NLP, neuro linguistic programming, you embed commands and you change behaviors. So has anyone ever heard of Pavlov's dog? Pavlov's dog. So this guy, Pavlov, way back in the day, was trying to check some information, and he figured out these dogs that are running on the street, so they're starving. And if he went ahead and he pulled out a steak, a juicy steak, and he rang the bell at the same time, the dogs would salivate as soon as they saw the steak, right? And he trained them over and over again. So every time the bell rang, there was steak. And then later on, he took away the steak and rang the bell, and the dogs would still salivate. So neurolinguistic programming establishes anchors. So I can anchor an emotion, I can anchor a behavior, but it only works if you truly are at like a 10 in terms of believing what you're doing, right? I don't want to get too much into NLP, but that's something I would strongly encourage you to look at. It's a great way for you to learn your language. Another thing is just there's a language of sales, if you will, and the techniques and the words that you use. We've all heard about tie downs, right? Those are great, and you should be using them. If you future pace your client, you can just say, hey, you know what? Roberto, when we get you this house, man, your friends are going to love you. You're going to be the envy of your friends. I mean, how's that going to feel when you come home to this house every night, right? So now there's a couple of things. If you've ever heard of this guy named Zig Ziglar, he's another great one. He's old school, sold pots and pans from door to door. But Zig Ziglar, if you can picture this graphic, he shows a picture of his head, your heart, and your wallet. Now, which is closer to your wallet, your head or your heart? It's your heart, right? Your heart. So I can give you all the facts and details and numbers on why you should make this transaction or maybe why you should sell this house. But if I can touch your heartstrings, you'll pull for your wallet, hands down. So what you really need to do is understand, like, for example, you have to ask if you might have heard the 5 whys, right? So imagine an onion and you're unpeeling the skin of an onion, right? So if you peel an onion and take that outer skin, is that really good? No, the juicy stuff is further down. You got to keep peeling and peeling and peeling, and that's the 5 whys. And so it's been proven, if you go ahead and ask why, it's like, hey, why do you want to buy a house? Because I'm tired of renting. Well, why are you tired of renting? Because it's just becoming too expensive. Well, why is it becoming too expensive? Because I just see that these other people that bought homes their houses are going up. They're building equity. Well, why is that important to you? Well, I really want to set my family up. Why is that important for you? Because I want to create a legacy, right? So we went from I want to, basically buy a house to I want to create a legacy. Well, that's your hot button now. So anytime during the transaction, and don't do it in a manipulative way, but that's really hot. So when that person is time to write that offer, and you think they need to go maybe $5,000 higher, and they don't want to go $5,000 higher, what would you do? Well, do you say, some corny stuff, or like, well, only $5,000, right? Or do you say, well, hey, Lorena, how is you not spending that $5,000 going to help your little son who's getting bullied stop getting bullied? Right? So find out what that button is, keep hitting it, remind them of it. And then now you've got them open to consider it. And then you can just break it down. You can do, it's called a 1902 close, which is reduce it to the ridiculous. You say, hey, Lorena, how long are you going to live in that house? And she said, well, at least 10 years. And so we're talking about $5,000. So $5,000 over the course of 10 years is about $500 a year, right? And last time I checked, there's about 12 months in a year. So that would be about $40 a month. And last time I checked, there's 30 days in a month, and that would be about $1.30 a day. So I just have to ask you, Lorena, is your son worth $1.30 a day? Shut up, right? So there's so much that we did right there to kind of break it down, but you really have to find out what they're looking for. And then the whole time you do it, you have to do it in a confident way and use your voice. And so going back to what I was saying, your voice is an amazing instrument. Learn your scripts, learn your dialogues, learn your objection handlers. One thing I'll say about objection handlers, don't study them too long because then you focus on them. And we know what you focus on, what expands, right? So learn them, know them, but don't just think it because if you do a really good, say, listing presentation, very seldom do I get objections. Sometimes, more often than not, someone will ask the price just because, you have to ask the price, right? He's like, hey, will you do it for less? No. All right, cool. And so, but that's something you have to make sure you know on your objections. But in terms of the scripts, oh, do you have something, Lorena?
Yeah, I had a question. Because maybe some of the team is also wondering, do you have any scripts, dialogues, or objections that you can send some stuff that way you can emails that we can practice and go over?
I do, as a matter of fact. I will do
That'd
those.
be great. If you can send it to me and then I can send it to the team, that'd be great.
Okay, absolutely. Hold on one second. Jeanette, I need to send Lorena some scripts and objections. See? See how I do that?
Yeah.
So you talk to your
Awesome.
assistant.
Thank you.
No worries. And so, but the script, so I want you guys to think about a script. Everybody here has seen a script or has used a script, right? Raise your hand if you've used a script. This is where you participate. Everybody raise your hand, right? All right. So if you've used a script, how many of you think the script sounds hokey? A lot of you look at the scripts like, that doesn't sound like me. That doesn't sound natural, right? It's because you haven't owned the script. A script I want to share with you is like a skeleton. And what does a skeleton do in your body? It gives you structure and support, right? But what brings you to life? It's your skin, it's your blood vessels, it's your muscles, it's your tendons. All of the flesh is what brings you to life. So when you see that script, it's nothing more, I promise you, it's nothing more than a skeleton. But when you go ahead and you add in the, oh, wow, oh my God, really? Right? And it's sincere and it's earnest. That's what translates that script into a conversation. And you're the only one that knows where it's going. The client doesn't see it. The client will understand where you're going. If you called me on a call and I answered on sign call and I say, ring, ring, hey, this is Kevin, how can I help you? Oh, you're calling about the house at 123 Main Street? That's a great house. Everybody's calling on that. So you're looking for a house? Well, how long have you been looking? What exactly are you looking for? Wow. Well, I assume you're calling me, you're not working with an agent. Or if I wasn't as bold, I would say, well, how many offers did you make? Oh, okay. Well, how many of those houses did you get? Oh, okay. Well, when you find the right house, are you going to go ahead and pay cash? Or are you going to need some financing? Okay. Would you like me to refer a good lender for you? Okay. And I'm just going to walk them through the whole script, and they'll never know they went through a script because it sounds like it's conversational. But the reason I use a script is I have a destination in mind. If you're asking mindless questions, guess what? It's not going to go anywhere. You probably had people asking you questions, and you're like, come on, what are you getting at? But you can tell when you're being sold artfully and that person's taking you in a direction and they're asking you open-ended questions to gather information. So an open-ended question would be, who, what, when, where, why? Well, what's that going to do for you? Well, why is that important to you, Simeon? Wow. Well, tell me more about that, right? So what I'm doing in the earlier phase of our conversations is I'm going to ask open-ended questions. I'm going to pull information out of you. And then when it's time to close you, then I'm going to use closed-ended questions, right? And so I would just say, so, hey, if I'm hearing you right, Simeon, you want a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house, 2,500 square foot. You want a kitchen that looks out to the backyard so you can watch your kids play. It would be a plus if you had a pool, and you'd like to have it close to the Joseph Sims Elementary School District. Did I hear you right, Simeon? And so first thing is that's a listing check. So now I've told Simeon that Simeon's important enough that I'm writing things down what he's saying, I'm remembering him, and I'm getting my listing check in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, well, based off what you're saying, Simeon, I'm 100% confident that we can find the house for you. And if you give me just 2 weeks, I'm sure we'll get you in the house and you'll be in escrow and on your way to your house. And so you have to speak with absolute confidence that that's going to happen. And some people, if you don't have the confidence, you're like, I'm not going to say I can get you in a house in 2 weeks. It's a tough market out there. There's not a lot of houses. There's low inventory, right? And all that is that's your negative self-talk getting in the way, right? And so they have that saying is, imagine what you would do if you knew you couldn't fail? Think about it. How many people would you call if you knew you couldn't fail? You would not go home, right? And so the analogy I kind of use is kind of like, Michael Jordan, if you ever watched him play, he would go into his owner. Now it's Steph Curry, right? Everybody else is playing. I don't know how big a basketball cylinder is, 12 inches. I don't know, whatever it is, right? But Steph Curry, that thing must look like it's, 5 feet wide, right? What if every time you walked into a listing appointment, what if your mindset was, oh man, I hope they don't cut my commission. I hope they don't want to shorten my length of the listing commission of the listing period. I hope this, I hope that. Or if you walk into the listing presentation, like, oh my God, they are so lucky they called Kevin Cooper. I'm here to solve all their problems, right? And you literally have the confidence. You can just sit back, and I'm not waiting for their objections. I genuinely want to have a conversation. I'm genuinely going to listen to them and then respond accordingly. And that's the thing. You've ever had somebody who's maybe on the script or someone's saying something, they miss it, but you pick up on it. If you pick up on it, it validates them. It lets them know that you're listening to them. It lets them know that you're important. It lets them know that you're professional. That even comes down to, I'm going to go old school on you right now. In California, we're pretty casual, right? I remember when I started the business 20 years ago, I went up to every listing appointment suited and booted. I had the coat on, the suit on, the tie on, and just where we are today, that just doesn't happen as often, right? It's not that important. People kind of like comfort, want to be comfortable, but you still need to be like business casual, right? You don't want to just roll up in some shorts and flip-flops. You have to look for your client. And what I find is if it's a younger clientele, typically they're a little bit more informal. But if I go to an older clientele, so boomers and beyond, I'm probably going to be more apt to show up a little bit dressed better, right? Think about that with your health. When you're really fit and feel in shape, do you feel that you stand a little bit taller? Do you feel that you're noticed a little bit more than you walk in the room? Are your shoulders back or are they kind of hunched over? Is your head tall or are you kind of looking down? Do you kind of mumble what you say or do you enunciate every single word, right? All of these things are the aggregate total of you. And don't get it wrong. The minute you walk in the room, people start evaluating you, whether you like it or not. And so that's why it's so important for you to do these things I'm asking you to do. Because showing up is one thing, but then once you show up, you have to perform. You have to establish yourself as a local area expert, right? How do you do that? Well, there's stats on the MLS. NAR and CAR put out stats all the time. Inman is an okay place to go. There's a lot of places. So if when you start your morning consuming some information about the real estate industry. If there's a class that's coming up, go to the class and find out what you want to learn. So for me, I'm motivated as all get out. That's not a problem. Motivation, I don't lack. But sometimes I might want to learn a specific skill. Like, for example, AI. We've all heard about AI. How many of you are actually using it? Right? And if you are, good for those of you that are using it. Play with it. Don't be afraid of it. Use it to your advantage. Now, I know Simeon's been using it quite a bit. But if you use AI, I mean, that's hey, people, remember, and some of you are younger and some of you remember this, when the internet started, it was like the most amazing thing in the world. Because here's me, when the internet started, right, I was doing my master's thesis. And what I had to do was I had to hop in my car and drive from Elk Grove to Davis to the library at the university. And then I had to get out of my car, walk all the way to the library, go to the card catalog of the microfiche film, find out where my book allegedly is, search the banks to get it, go all through the library to find the book, only to open up a 500-page book and start perusing through it. Now we got this thing called Google, right? And now we have this thing called AI. Make sure you're using that to your advantage. These are just tools and skills, right? Am I an AI expert? Absolutely not. Do I know people that are? Absolutely. I was working out with a guy today who's an AI expert. And in fact, I should remember the sites. He gave me a couple of sites that are really cool. He said there's something called Munch something, whereas if you take like a podcast, Roberto, if you took this podcast and you put it into this program, an app called Munch, I think it is, it will cut it up and find sound bites that you can go ahead and send on out. I mean, there's a tool for everything. We know that, right? But the one thing that can't be replaced is you as a realtor. They've been trying to do it for years. Remember Purple Bricks? Remember Redfin? Remember Zillow? Remember all of these things? They're trying to devalue you as a realtor. They're trying to say you're not that important. They're trying to say that you're a commodity, that, hey, all realtors are the same. And we know that's the furthest thing from the truth. And when someone, insinuates that, it's kind of like, hey, if I'm selling you $1 million house, I assume you probably want to get the best possible realtor, not the cheapest one. Because just you flip that script, if someone was suing you for $1 million, would you want the cheapest attorney or would you want the best attorney? Right? So we just have to make sure that we understand what our value is, our value proposition, and we never lose sight of that. We have to make sure we know that we're a valuable and integral part to the transaction. We have to know these people are trusting us with arguably their largest asset ever, right? And what we know is what real estate does for people is it really does create a legacy. It really does allow you to change your family tree. It really does change your finances, right? How many of us have seen people come from the Bay Area with a little bitty house that in our town would look like it's a ghetto house, but they sold it in San Jose and got $1.2 million, right? Do you think that affected their life? And so we are so lucky that we signed up for this noble profession called real estate, that we get the opportunity to work evenings, that we get the opportunity to work weekends, right? And I am so grateful for that opportunity. It doesn't get lost in the shuffle. Because if we didn't want it, then we could give it up anytime we want. But I bet each one of you have had jobs before you went into real estate, some of them really high paying. I had a 6-figure job at UPS as a manager. When I left to come in this business, people thought I was crazy. And the 3rd month in this business, I made more in 1 month than I did in an entire year after being at UPS as a manager for 17 years. My income has never gone down. My income, even when the market's good or bad, has never gone down to the UPS manager level. It's always at least 2 or 3 times that, right? So we have a gift, which is this opportunity to sell real estate. When you look at that check that you get for your buyer or for your listing, I want you to see how many hours you really put into that and then divide that number by an hourly rate, and you'll be amazed at what you earn, right? So if you take it serious and you be the professional that I know you all are, we're going to protect our entire industry. And that's what I feel is really important. And that goes back to what we're talking here is your skill set, sharpening your skills, learning your scripts, your dialogues, looking at NLP, keeping yourself physically and mentally in order, and then just making sure that when the opportunity comes, you don't miss it. You're prepared for the opportunity. Example, I flew in last night. I have a place down in Mexico. I flew in last night, and a client wanted to see a home. I got off the plane at 7:30. I drove to the house by 8 o'clock straight from the airport. I showed her the house. I wrote it up last night, and I talked to the agent this morning, and we're going to get the offer accepted. That's junkyard dog mode, right? Let me tell you about junkyard dog, right? The same day that I took my $1.4 million listing, I took a listing for $275. That's a junkyard dog, right? You don't discriminate. It doesn't matter. You go after every bit of business you possibly can because it all goes ahead and contributes to your overall business plan, right? So a $275,000 deal, you're not going to retire on it. But man, that might pay your mortgage. It might pay your car. It might, let you put a little money in the IRA. The 1.4, that's going to pay a bill or two. That's going to let me get ahead. That's going to let me put some money in my savings into my Roth IRA, into my 401k, into my money market funds, all those other things, right? But the 275, don't turn your nose up at it. Don't act like you're too good at it. It took me years before. I think I was 15 years before I sold my first trailer, right? Who never sold a home at a trailer park? Raise your hand. Oh yeah, Tim's the trailer park king now. But so I laughed because I would just give them away. I would just give them to another agent. And I looked and I saw the commissions. Many times it's just a few $1,000s. You're not getting rich off of it. But I went ahead and did it, and it woke me up. That's when you're going junkyard dog, is when you're out there selling a trailer. Now, I'm not saying specialize in selling trailers, because I don't know about that as a business strategy, right? Because if you look at your sales that you've done, is it harder to sell an expensive house or a cheap house? Meaning, if you're representing a buyer, a $1 million buyer or a $250,000 buyer, which one do you think is going to be harder to get into a house? What do you think, Roberto?
Usually the cheaper ones are the harder ones.
Exactly. Now, 100%. You work harder because every dollar matters, right? If I have $1 million house and there's a $15,000 pest problem, that's not a problem. If I have a $250,000 house and there's a $15,000 pest problem, that's a big problem, right? So big numbers are easier. A person who has $1 million, they know exactly what they want. I want 5 bedrooms. I want at least 1 acre. It's got to have a 4-car garage, blah, 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 blah. Guess what? Here's the 3 houses that fit your criteria. Let's go see them. Easy peasy. But when someone's at, 300,000, guess what? Now you're going to go ahead, and that person who's at 3,000 is probably not well heeled anyhow, right? They probably don't have a lot of liquidity, more than likely. Maybe they're FHA, maybe they're conventional, but they're not 20% conventional. They're 3 or 5% conventional, right? And you're going to go out there and do your very best, put your best foot forward to get that offer accepted, but you're probably going to get beat up a little bit before you get them into an offer, into the right deal. Whereas that person is buying the $1 million house, not only are they buying that, then they're probably going to need to sell their $750,000 house, right? So one analogy that I use is, pick your town, whatever town you live in, and think of the very best neighborhood, the most expensive neighborhood, right? Now, go ahead and think of the worst neighborhood in the town that you live in, right? Probably the least expensive, the highest in crime. Now, how much does a stamp cost? Anybody? What does a stamp cost nowadays? 60 cents? This is where you're supposed to participate. But 60 cents, 70 cents? I don't know, right? So if I'm going to spend my marketing dollars, do I spend it where I can get a $1 million deal or I can get a $200,000 deal, right? But somehow people will convince themselves that they feel more comfortable in the lower price point than the more expensive price point. That's a mistake, people. That's a huge mistake. Don't do that. And for example, what Tim shared earlier, he triple-ended a deal, not double-ended, triple-ended. You got a buyer who bought his listing who went ahead and also had to sell their house, right? And some people say, well, I don't want to do that. That's dual agency. I don't know what we couldn't call Tim. It's like, that's triple agency now. But, that's a triple dip. But the paycheck that he got or is getting is going to be very meaningful. But did he sell anybody short on the service he provided? Nope. The seller was happy, the buyer was happy, and then the buyer was happy selling their house. So I say all this is make sure that your mindset's right, that you're going after the right business, that you're going big game hunting. Don't go looking for mice, go looking for elephants, And where do you find elephants? Well, wherever elephants roam. You don't go to, the cheap place, you don't go to the dollar store and look for $1 million deal, right? You're probably more likely to find $1 million deal at Nordstrom's than dollar store. So those are the things that I think that are really, really important for you. And as this market continues to flesh out, I would hope that you really put some intention into your business. Go back to what we were talking about at the very beginning is your mindset. You got to get it right. You got to go ahead and make sure that if you're not growing, you are dying. If you're just playing it safe right now, you're going backwards. Change the state of your mind, get pissed off, embrace the monster that's in you, screw what other people think, just take action. I remember when I was out, go ahead. When I was out walking this morning, I put a couple of things here. I was rattling off this, so let's see if it makes sense. I put sharpen your sales skills, mastery of scripts and dialogues, learn objection handling, but don't focus on it. Record yourself and listen to your tone. Your voice is like a violin, and the music is it's music to your client's ears when it's done properly. Get excited. It's okay to talk fast and raise your voice. Make it a point to slow down and lower your voice. However, make sure that when you do these things, you're doing them with intention. So that's kind of what I wanted to share with you. I mean, we can get into some more, maybe open up to questions, but I just really felt compelled to share that with you. I want you guys to get fired up because so many people are saying this is not a good market and it's wrong. I can show you, it's a good market, I promise you. And that's my production up there. It's not my team's production, right? I want you guys, and this is in a market where a lot of people are struggling. There's no reason for us to be struggling. We're all here to help each other, and anything that I can do to help you, just let me know. So with that, let's open it up to questions.
Yeah, guys, unmute yourself and let's share what we've learned. One of the things that got my attention is how David Goggins, right? I've heard of him, I've seen him a little bit. That guy's hardcore. Now, imagine for a second what your business would be like, or our business would be like, if we really intentionally focused on prospecting for 8 hours a day, 6 hours a day, right? Which is what we should be doing. I know that a lot of times we think, what's it going to be like if I only close 5 transactions a year, 6 transactions a year? I guarantee you, if we prospect, no matter what industry you're in, no matter what kind of business you have, but in real estate specifically, if we prospect 8 hours a day, you're going to be busier than you can even imagine. So I think that's where we have to change our mindset, not focusing on the transaction that we have. Because a lot of times we get a transaction, we get lost in like inspections and this and that and the other. Let's keep that pipe full, prospect, manage our time correctly, and crush it. The other one was the communication part, right? 10% is what we say, body and our voice. Stand up, get in your office, get pumped up. If you got to drink coffee, if you pay attention to your tonality when you're laying down, you're just like, oh yeah, I just woke up. You can tell when somebody's tired, they're not into what they're doing. So stand up, really get some energy going. Anything else you guys have? I have a few other notes, but what else do you guys have that we got from this?
So I have a quick question about re-engaging, like maybe with our past clients and whatnot. Obviously, we would make that call and say, hey, just checking in, see how everything's going. How's the family? How's the house? Blah, blah, blah. How do you come off after a long conversation to ask for business so it doesn't seem like, you're just calling for that? What would you say, Kevin, because you're really good at that?
Well, one thing you could do is the quick six, which is good for when you're just starting in the business and or if you haven't been in touch with people. But the quick six is really simple. So like you say, you send a notification out. So I would do is maybe if I send an announcement, we'll focus on a new agent, but this will address what you're talking about too, Lorena, is you send out an announcement saying, hey, I started selling real estate, right? It goes out to everybody. We used to send letters out in the mail, but now it seems like people post things on Facebook and Instagram. Then once you announce it, then you follow behind it with a phone call. And the phone call being this, where we'll run into what Lorraine is saying is, hey, Simeon, this is Kevin Cooper. How you doing? Hey, I just wanted to call and talk to you for a second. I just wanted to find out, once you go through pleasantries, you say, hey, I wanted to find out if you knew somebody that needed to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, would you refer me? And right off the bat, I'm qualifying them. They say, well, no, my wife sells real estate. Well, great. Okay, I'm not going to delete their number, but I'm not going to market them. But if they say, well, absolutely, I would absolutely refer them to you, great. So what I'm going to do, Simeon, is I'm going to put you on my client appreciation list. And what that means is periodically I'm going to send you items of value. I'll tell you what's happening in your neighborhood from a real estate perspective. And then also we have functions from time to time. In fact, I just rented out the movie theater last week for 120 people, and I brought 120 of my clients down and we watched Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise. Really did do that. And so you say that, and so we'll go through and get all this information. By the way, Simeon, while I have you on the phone, is your number still 555-1212? Is your email address still Simeon@CooperHomesales.com? Fantastic. Hey, Simeon, one more thing before I let you go. Is there anything that I can do for you? And by asking that question, is there anything I can do for you? It resets it. Doesn't make you seem as needy or thirsty. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to say there's nothing you can do for me. But that 10th time, they might say, yeah, my little girl's selling some Girl Scout cookies. Like, well, put me down for 10 boxes, right? So then as soon as you hang up, so you remember quick six. So number 1 is announcement. Number 2 is a call. Number 3, you send an item of value, right? So the item of value I might send out, I'm sorry. The first, I'm going to send a handwritten card. So number 3 is a handwritten card. So I'll send out a handwritten card. Hey, it was so good talking to you, Simeon. And I'll drop three business cards in there. And so good talking to you. I really appreciate you supporting me. Please don't keep me a secret. Boom, mail it off. Wait a couple of days where you think he's got it. Call back behind. So now we're on number 4. Call behind. Simeon, did you get that card I sent you? Yeah, man, you sent me. Why'd you send me 3 business cards? Well, that's easy, man. 1 to use, 1 to lose, and 1 to give away. Go give away my card, man. All right, yeah, I'll talk to you later. Bye. Boom. Right? Then I'm going to hang up the phone. Number 5, I'm going to send another item of value. Maybe it's a CMA. Hopefully you all know how to do a CMA. Doesn't take more than 5 minutes, right? And you can do the ones from Prospector. I mean, they have some really cool ones. You send it out. It looks like you spent hours, right? And why is it important to your client? Because it's all about them. And you're going to show you what their house might be worth. Don't get an exact CMA, get a range. Say, hey, your house is worth somewhere between 5 and 550, right? If you want to find an exact number, let me know. And then after you send it, wait a couple of days. And number 6 is you call them up and you say, hey, did you get the CMI sent you? Yeah, I can't believe, hey, Tim, you bought that house in 2012. That was the bottom of the market. You got it for 400. That thing's worth like 825 right now. And so it's just a good conversation. Now what you've done, you've demonstrated, Lorena, that you follow up, that you're professional, and that you're an expert in what you do. And now at that point, you kind of reset them so you can just put them on your regular CRM and drip on them however often you want to do that, once a month, once every couple of weeks. Does that make sense?
Yes, perfect. And then also, who can I get this recording from? I really would like to get it.
I'll get you a copy.
Okay. Thank you, Roberto.
Perfect. Who else has some questions?
Anything you guys got before we sign off, guys? We got 7 more minutes.
Come on, team. Speak up, team. Caesar, you have any questions?
Not a question, but I do appreciate all the relation to David Goggins, as well as kind of tying in fitness and just our general health. And I think I really like that aspect of it, of being a better you, lets you be a better realtor for your clients. And naturally that takes a focus on our skills and our health. And that is kind of like a good tie-in to create that longevity in the business. So I do appreciate those points.
Absolutely. Thank you. And yeah, your health is paramount. And so one thing that you'll tell your clients is, if I'm going to consult to you, Roberto, I know you have your financial portfolio, and in that you probably have some stocks, some bonds, some mutual funds, maybe some cash holdings, and then hopefully you have part of your portfolio as your real estate. And what I like to do is I will talk to you specifically about your real estate portfolio and how we could grow that. Would it be okay if we did that, Roberto?
Definitely.
Yeah. And so let me ask you this, Roberto, do you have like money sitting in a savings account right now?
I do have some, yeah.
Yeah. And what's your return on that? Like 0.000001?
Actually, 0.00002.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
one move you could do, Roberto, is you could just take that same money, put it right in the money market, and you're going to get anywhere between 1.7 to maybe 3%, which is exponentially greater than what you're getting right now. You're still maintaining liquidity, and you get a better result. Would you be opposed to doing something like that?
Not at all. Let's do it.
Absolutely. I have a guy I can refer you to. He'll help you with that. But aside from that, I mean, if we could take that 0.001 and maybe get you like an 8% return or a 10% return, would you be interested in finding out more about that?
Of course, yeah.
Absolutely, great. Because I'd love to talk to you about some investment properties. And so, for example, I'm helping one client right now. He has a triplex he's purchasing for $900,000. It cash flows very good. It comes in at almost a 6.5% capitalization rate. And then by the time you go ahead and get all the write-offs with that, it's really over a 10% rate. So what I'd like to do is really take you and let you put your money someplace, because I know, Roberto, how hard you've worked for that money. Let me help you put it someplace where it's going to start working for you. Would it be okay if we did that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I trust you.
Okay, perfect. So you guys, you see the language I'm using and how natural it sounds. There's not a whole lot of no's to say to that. The guy wants to do it or not. I mean, right off the bat, I gave him value. If he doesn't do any business with me, he takes his money in his savings account and he moves it to a money market and makes more money. If he wants to make more money, he can put it in a short-term CD or a long-term CD, right? It just depends on how important the liquidity of that money is. That conversation is not, I will help you sell your house or I'll help you buy your house, right? If someone calls you up and says, I want to sell my house right now, don't just say, okay, I'll be right over to sell it. It's like, whoa, why is it so important for you to sell it right now, right? They're going to respect you more, and you're going to be better off asking that question instead of just going over and listing that house, only to find out you get the photographer out there, you get the stager out there, you get on the market for 2 days, and then they pull the listing from you because you didn't find out what was really going on. That all it was this couple got into a nasty, wicked argument, and guess what? They made up, and now you've wasted hundreds of dollars, maybe thousands of dollars with your time, right? And those are the sort of things I want to have you get used to.
That's true. I've had a couple of them call me where the gentleman calls me, hey, Robert, I need to sell this house right now. And I hear the wife in the back, no, you're not. It's like, yeah, let's cool things down. Let's be purposeful with this conversation. What do we got to do? Let's figure things out. And eventually, if they have to sell it, they'll have to sell it. Guys, real estate, believe it or not, there's a lot of work. The agents that are successful, they get up early, get their education on, they put in the time. There's a lot of work that goes into it. Yes, you see the $1 million transactions. Yes, you see the thousands of dollars that they put in their bank account. Well, there's a lot of work behind that. So let's put in the work, and let's crush it. I have an accountability class that I do at 1 o'clock. So I'll see the people that we're meeting with later. Find somebody that's going to help you out. You guys are investing in your business. These calls are not for us to chit chat and just to see how we're doing. Kevin's got some great information, and we've had people like Mr. Manny Toledo on the call. They share all this information because they've been there, they've done it. We want to see everybody succeed. I want to introduce really quick. We have my friend. Where is he? I can't see you. I think he left already. But Pablo Tagre, he's an attorney. He does estate planning and trusts. If you guys need, I mean, all your clients should have their trust set up, right? He does estate planning. It's super important to protect your clients. You're coming from contribution, right?
Yeah, Roberto is exactly right on that. You all should connect with an attorney like he has, because probate's the worst thing in the world. Probate's absolutely awful. If you're trying to create a legacy and trying to protect your family, probate's the worst thing you can do is die intestate. And so just coming from that perspective, your clients will respect you. Hey, Roberto, can I leave you guys with one quote as we wind down?
Absolutely.
Okay, and this just kind of goes back to that warrior that I was talking about. As you guys are out there fighting and finding the inner monster and all that. It's a quote. It's my favorite quote, hands down. Is from Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, and it goes like this: "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who was actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." Teddy Roosevelt, right? So picture yourself as that warrior. Every day that's you going out there, put on your armor, go out there, slay a dragon, and you're going to go ahead and create the legacy that you want.
Yes, guys, don't be afraid to to get those negative phone calls or the people that turn you down. Every time somebody turns you down, that means you're getting closer to the one that's going to say yes, that's going to want to work with you. I also want to introduce Tim Tafoya. He does photography for real estate agents. Is here in Modesto. If you guys need him, let me know. He's willing to help you guys out. Kevin, amazing information. Guys, this is all for you guys. Go out there and crush it. There's so much business out there. Look at MetroList. Look at all the new listings that are up today. Look at all the pendings. Look at all the sales. Don't get frustrated if you don't have the business you want. Let's change the way we're doing things and crush it.
Thank you for having me, Roberto.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody, thank you for being here.
Thank you, everyone.